Imagine standing in a trench in 1916, mud to your ankles, barbed wire glinting ahead, artillery shaking the ground every few seconds. The air tastes like smoke and metal. Men around you grip rifles with trembling hands, waiting for a whistle that will send them into a battlefield no human being had ever faced before. World War I didn't just change nations. It changed how wars were fought, how soldiers survived, and how technology reshaped the meaning of brutality. And to understand the battles of World War I is to understand the moment modern warfare was born. The Great War exploded across Europe in 1914. And almost overnight, centuries of military tradition became useless. Commanders expected quick victories, cavalry charges, and glorious breakthroughs. Instead, they ran into machine guns, weapons capable of firing hundreds of rounds a minute. Armies dug defensive trenches stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland. The war froze, and the battles that followed became grim experiments in trying to break an enemy protected by earth. Steel and fire, one of the earliest wake-up calls, came at the First Battle of the Marne, where French and British forces stopped the German, advanced just miles from Paris. It wasn't elegance or old-school tactics that saved France. It was coordination, improvisation, and speed. Taxi cabs famously rushed soldiers to the front line. The Germans retreated, dug in, and trench warfare began. Then came Verdun in 1916, one of the longest and most brutal battles in history. Germany's plan was simple and horrifying: bleed France white. They targeted a fortress city symbolic to the French people, believing France would throw everything into protecting it. They were right. For 10 months, Verdun became hell on earth. Artillery fire was so constant that entire forests vanished, churned into barren mud. Soldiers described the battlefield as a meat grinder. Yet France refused to break. Verdun became a symbol of endurance, a battle won not by brilliance, but by the refusal to surrender. Meanwhile, the British launched the Battle of the Somme, hoping to relieve pressure on Verdun. What they unleashed on July 1, 1916, became the bloodiest day in British military history. After days of shelling, British troops climbed out of their trenches, believing the German defenses were destroyed. They weren't. Machine guns opened up immediately. Barbed wire remained uncut. Thousands fell within minutes. The Somme revealed the devastating problem of World War I. Traditional tactics could not survive modern technology. World War I wasn't only brutal, it was inventive. Tanks rolled onto battlefields for the first time. Airplanes, once used for reconnaissance, began dropping bombs and engaging in dogfights. Poison gas drifted across trenches, burning lungs and blinding eyes. Flamethrowers, mortar, and heavy artillery reshaped the land itself. Battles like Passchendaele in 1917 became infamous not just for casualties but for conditions. Soldiers drowned in mud. Horses and equipment vanished into craters filled with rainwater. The terrain looked like another planet. The problem every commander faced was that the tools of war were evolving faster than the strategies. Leaders who trained in 19th century battle tactics were suddenly confronted with 20th century weapons capable of wiping out entire units in seconds. They needed breakthroughs, ways to escape the stalemate that had consumed Europe. And eventually, solutions began to form. Combined arms tactics emerged, infantry advancing behind creeping artillery barrages, tanks leading assaults, aircraft coordinating attacks from above. Communication improved with field telephones and runners. Armies learned to move in small units instead of mass waves. These innovations paid off in 1918 during the final Allied offensives, when Germany, exhausted by blockades and drained of manpower, couldn't keep pace with the new, fast-moving strategies. What ended the war wasn't a single battle. It was the realization that modern warfare required flexibility, technology, and coordination on a scale the world had never seen. And when the guns finally fell silent on November 11, 1980, nations were left to reckon with the cost. Millions dead, empires collapsed, borders redrawn, and a future forever shaped by trenches, artillery, and the brutal lessons of industrialized war. World War I battles teach us that bravery alone doesn't win wars. Strategy must evolve. Technology must be understood. And leaders must recognize the human cost of every decision. The First World War was supposed to be the war to end all wars. Instead, It became the warning, a reminder that the brutality of modern conflict must never be underestimated, and that the true victory comes from learning how to prevent history from repeating itself.